Breaking news! Coming with the latest news just for you. Unfortunately, it wasn't this time, and that's only making fans angrier. We have a lot to talk about, so be sure to hit that like button to get the latest Miami Dolphins news. We have some important updates on our defense that you won't want to miss, especially since we're heading into a crucial game against the Buffalo Bills. Let's start with the status of linebacker Bradley Chubb. Unfortunately, it looks like he'll be out for the time being. Chubb hasn't practiced since suffering a torn ACL late last season during that tough loss to the Ravens. He started this season on the inability to play list, and with the Week 8 game against the Bills looming, head coach Mike McDaniel doesn't anticipate Chubb's practice window opening just yet. In his own words, McDaniel said, "Chubb is not on my radar right now, which is not what we want to hear as fans looking for defensive reinforcements." Chubb recorded an impressive 73 tackles and 11 sacks before his injury last season, so having him back would be a huge boost for the Dolphins' struggling pass rush. The Dolphins are currently tied for the fewest sacks in the league with just 3 in their last 4 games, ranking 30th overall with 1.3 sacks per game. We need Chubb out there to help turn things around. Now, let's shift gears to safety Jevon Holland. He left the game against the Cardinals with a knee injury, but thankfully it's not expected to keep him out for long. McDaniel shared that the injury isn't serious and that Holland's status is still week to week. Holland has been a key player for us, racking up 26 tackles and forcing a fumble this season. His absence could be felt, especially with the Bills coming up fast on the schedule. The Dolphins' defense has held opponents to an average of just 18 points over the last 3 games, and having Holland back in the lineup could really improve our playmaking ability. So, Dolphins fans, what do you think of the current state of our defense? With Chubb likely out for another week and Holland's injury status up in the air, how do you see the team performing against the Bills? Should we be concerned about our pass rush? Let me know what you think in the comments below. What's Wright's play at running back for our Dolphins? Head coach Mike McDaniel is facing a delightful dilemma: too many talented players at the running back position. With everyone back healthy, the Dolphins now have a surplus of running backs, and that creates some tricky decisions when it comes to distributing snaps and touches. The player at the center of this conversation? Rookie Jalen Wright. Wright, our 4th-round pick, has shown that he can really make things happen every time he touches the ball. Just look at his performance during the recent 28-27 contest against the Arizona Cardinals. He had 2 impressive runs of 12 and 6 yards right off the bat. But here's the problem: after those 2 runs, Wright barely saw the field again, finishing with just 3 offensive snaps. Instead, Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert carried the load. Achane was electric against Arizona, racking up 97 rushing yards and another 50 through the air, while Mostert struggled a bit with just 19 yards on 9 carries, though he did score 2 touchdowns. Wright's average this season is an impressive 5.3 yards per carry, leading the team, while Achane trails at 4.4 and Mostert at 3.5. It's clear Wright deserves more opportunities, but how do we balance that with McDaniel's familiarity with Mostert from their days together in San Francisco? McDaniel addressed this issue head-on during a recent press conference. He emphasized the importance of teamwork and how each player contributes to the success of the play, not just when they have the ball. He acknowledged the need to adapt based on what players bring to the table and hinted that we should expect more from Wright going forward. "I would be surprised if you guys told me he had 2 carries. That wasn't the plan initially," McDaniel said. So what's the solution? With the Dolphins loaded with running backs, there has been some media talk about the possibility of trading one of our veterans. Jeff Wilson Jr., who has yet to show up on game day, could be a candidate, especially since he's set to hit free agency next spring. Mostert also has 1 year remaining on his contract, but the Dolphins could save some cap space if they decide to part ways with him. If a trade happens, potentially netting a 6th or 5th-round pick, it could pave the way for Wright to get the touches he deserves. That could be critical, especially if the Dolphins find themselves struggling at the trade deadline. This wasn't just another loss, it was a missed opportunity in a game we should have won. Tua Tagovailoa showed promise upon his return, but late-game mistakes, missed tackles, and questionable game management led to us blowing a 2-point lead in the 4th quarter. It's becoming a painful pattern, and once again, the defense failed in the second half, reminiscent of last season's collapse against the Titans. As we look ahead to our matchup in Orchard Park, the pressure is mounting. The Dolphins have made it clear they are not a playoff team. From the front office to the field, this team is impressive. We had high hopes for this season, but instead, we're witnessing a regression back to the bottom third of the league. If we fall to the Bills, it could be the nail in the coffin of our playoff hopes, ushering in a nightmare scenario for the franchise. This offseason was supposed to be a turning point, with extensions for key figures like head coach Mike McDaniel through 2027. But decisions like letting Andrew Van Ginkel leave, signing injury-prone veterans and ignoring the need to replace key contributors have cast doubt on those ambitions. Chris Grier's approach to draft picks and roster management raises questions. Injuries have hit hard, but a lack of discipline has turned close games into losses. The lack of depth, especially at backup quarterback, is baffling given Tua's injury history. Why can't we secure a more reliable backup? And despite the underwhelming performance, McDaniel's loyalty to struggling players is concerning. Mike McDaniel needs to hold his players accountable. Losing is no fun, and it's clear the locker room is feeling the pinch. If things don't change soon, Grier and McDaniel's positions could be in jeopardy. Dolphins fans, what do you think? Is it time for a change at the top, or do we continue with our current leadership? So, Dolphins fans, what do you think? Should we keep all of our running backs and let them compete for playing time, or is it time to consider trading a veteran to make way for Jalen Wright? How do you see that playing out as we move forward into the season? Let's face it, folks, Tua's talent is being wasted right now, and much of that blame falls on general manager Chris Grier. While Grier hired Mike McDaniel as head coach and the two share responsibility for the roster, the main issue is still the offensive line. That's where the real problem lies. Tua has a quick release, but let's not let that singular skill cloud our view of his potential. Imagine what he could accomplish with a better offensive line protecting him. Now, he's often forced to throw within 2 seconds of the snap. What if he had time to let plays develop, just like he did in his college days at Alabama? We've seen glimpses of his accuracy and decision-making when he has time to settle in and look downfield, but too often he's left scrambling or making rash decisions. Sure, Miami's offensive line does a good job of run blocking, but when it comes to pass protection, they struggle. You deserve the chance to show your full potential. He shouldn't have to go for an outlet because the pocket collapses. A well-structured offensive line would allow him to progress through his reads, similar to what we saw from Kyler Murray in that recent game against the Cardinals. It's clear that the Dolphins' offense hasn't masked Tua's talent. Instead, it's highlighted the shortcomings of our O-line. If Miami is serious about making progress in the AFC East, it starts by investing in this offensive line. They need to create a stable environment for Tua, one that allows him to thrive and develop into the franchise quarterback we've been waiting for. Otherwise, we're looking at a future where Tua can never truly reach his potential. So, Dolphins fans, what do you think? Do you agree that the offensive line is holding Tua back, or are there other factors at play? What changes do you think need to happen to give him the best chance to succeed? Let's start the conversation in the comments below. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more in-depth discussions about our Miami Dolphins. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, fins up.